Hey, it's my Nerd World, Depeche Mode, the podcast. On the episode this week, Ghosts Again single details. We'll talk a little lighting the Memento Mori tour. Listener feedback, specifically your comments on what to wear when seeing a Depeche Mode concert. And details how you can listen to me drink and chat with Depeche Mode fans on Saturday.
Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.
It is my Nerd World. Welcome to it. I'm your host, Jon Justice. How's it going? This Saturday, April 29th, noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern here in the States. I am going to be taking part in a drink and chat with the Depeche Mode Global Fan Group, and specifically, Uber fan Rob Rome. If you want to be a part of it and check it out, look at the details in this week's podcast, of course, up on YouTube in the details as well. There's a link available there for the Depeche Mode Global Fan Group, the private group on Facebook. It'll also be posted on youtube.com/Depeche Global. But this Saturday, again, noon, 12 o'clock Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 o'clock my time here in Minneapolis, drink and chat with the Depeche Mode Global Fan Group. I am very much looking forward to it. I have no idea what I'm going to be drinking yet. I don't think I have any alcohol in the house currently. Typically, I'm a rum guy. I've gone through phases. I was a wine guy for a long period of time, and then I was a not drinking at all kind of guy. On occasion, I go the beer route, but as of late, it's been Captain Morgan's private stock. So I'm not sure what I'll be drinking on Saturday yet. But hopefully, you can join us and check it out. And again, all the details are available in the notes in this episode. Plus, if you go to Facebook and search for Depeche Mode Global Fan Group, it's a private group, but I believe if you answer a few questions, you might be able to join. I think they have like 21,000 members. It's huge, and I'm looking forward to talking to Rob Rome. I told the story last week of how we go way back, and had again just no idea that I've been communicating with an individual who I actually knew from my past, although we still haven't really been able to figure out which circle of friends we ran in together. Maybe when we talk on Saturday, we can figure it out, because that'll be riveting Depeche Mode conversation. So again, Saturday at noon Pacific time, 3 o'clock Eastern. Check out the notes for a drink and chat with myself, Jon Justice, and Rob Rome from the Depeche Mode Global Fan Group. All right, let's get to a little bit of news this week. So I've heard this from a few different sources. I'm not going to get too specific. However, I can say that what I've heard from a few different sources is that the Ghosts Again single release will be coming out very soon, probably sometime next week. And you're looking at, I believe, and again, multiple sources have not got this confirmed. I do not have any track listing yet. I don't know if there's B-sides attached yet, but we're looking about 8 tracks on the single. So again, I've heard this from a couple of different sources that have reached out, but I have not been able to get any confirmation specifically or firm confirmation on the exact date, or even if that is the exact number of tracks on the single, although I'm hearing it's going to be right around there. So I'm hoping to get some more details on that soon, but looking forward to hearing some of the remixes. I know there are some samples that are floating around. A lot of it is your standard sort of techno fare, which I personally am not that excited to hear. I'm hoping to hear some, remixes that are a little more in line with what we got back in the day. Those extended mixes, similar to what I created and posted in the Ghosts Again intro extended mix that I made, where I took the sample from the press conference that ended up being a piece of My Cosmos Is Mine, and then used the instrumental version along with the single version. I made just an extended version. I'm hoping that we get something along those lines, and they're not just straight dance techno tracks. But again, for multiple sources, it looks like it is coming soon, and no word on the vinyl release. I believe this is just going to be a digital release so far, so I'm not even sure about a physical release. And I'm hoping we do get a physical release, because I'd like to complete my collection, especially with this album, just because it is just such a special album. I have been listening to a little bit different Depeche Mode. I finally decided to listen to something other than Memento Mori, and oddly enough, it was Spirit, just because I was needing to listen to Going Backwards, because if there is ever a song that fits with our current state of the world, it is Going Backwards. So I listened to a bit of Spirit this week before I went back and continued listening to Memento Mori. I have a lot of listener feedback this week, and many of you answered the call on what to wear going to Depeche Mode shows, and I was pleasantly surprised by some of the answers. I also have a new challenge for you. I need to find out about Martin Gore's pants. I'm going to leave it at that for right now. I'll get into it more with listener feedback, but I've actually been Googling. I've been using the Google machine, Martin Gore's pants. I'll explain coming up. This is the news I wanted to share with you this week. A really fascinating article about the Depeche Mode World Tour. Depeche Mode is back in this article that was shared with me, and my apologies with who shared it with me. I think it might have been Chad, but I'm not 100% sure. Chad or Jason. Depeche Mode is back touring in a big way with their Memento Mori World Tour, with lighting designed by Jason Bayer and lighting supply by Four Wall. And this article, it gets a little wonky into the details of what they're using, but I found it really, really interesting to see a little bit behind the scenes of how the tours are and the light show is put together. I'm curious for how long it's been this way. If you go back and watch, and one of the best examples of the old school way in which they would light their shows comes from 101, where you can see the female crew member in the lighting rig in center. You know, that's set off in the sort of the center of the crowd, right? And she's physically going and tapping into almost a keyboard to do the dynamic lighting. Now, of course, it's all automated, and I'd be really interested to see for how long it's been automated. So this gets a little bit wonky in the details, but I personally found it interesting. Elation Lighting features Jason Bayer's design, including 3 fixtures from the award-winning Artiste series of LED movers. These are the single-source lights that dot the stage. They are the Monet, the Mondrian, and Rembrandt, along with Elation's new Proteus razor blade, which is it's a lighting rig that has a multiple line of single lights set up. You can actually see them on either side of the stage. The Memento Mori Tour, which is out in support of their newly released album of the same name, kicked off March 23rd, Sacramento, California. The European leg begins May 16th in Amsterdam, with the North American fall leg set to launch in September. Jason Bayer has support from Joe Bay, who serves as associate lighting designer and lighting programmer, while Sarah Parker is out operating the show as lighting director. What a cool gig. In his first outing with Depeche Mode, the designer says talks with the band began back in late October of 2022, and by mid-December, a preliminary design was completed, which later saw small refinements. The tour features a 27-foot-tall M backdrop, a large structural piece running video that Jason says was one of the most important aspects of the design. Dutch artist and longtime Depeche Mode photographer and videographer Anton Corbijn came up with the basic concept, which Bayer helped flush out and turn into a physical product for the production design. Bayer explains that the M has a dual role. It's designed to be a scenic piece rather than just a video screen, so it has depth and weight. So when you play the video, So when you play video across both the main screen and the M, you have two planes of video that are different for anybody in the house. People who view it dead on have a different perception of it than people who view it from the side or a higher angle. It physically changes what you're viewing and how you experience the films that Anton has made. That was the basic concept that we started with, a physical object that would not just be a video effect, but would physically change your perception. Lighting is used to match the same ideal. While supporting the physical frame of both the video wall and the M, we were trying to replicate the same type of scale overhead that we were looking at on stage, says Bayer. So the overhead lighting rig is actually a forced perspective mirror image of the M itself. And that's something that I hadn't noticed when watching some of the YouTube clips online. Active since the early 1980s, Depeche Mode is known for their distinctive sound, a blend of new wave, synth pop, and rock. Jason uses the rig to accentuate the expanse of moods and textures. The music itself is really based on two separate ideas that we really had to embrace, and we had to embrace both of them. We tried to pick one direction per song to go with, rock or synth. So the rig is broken into two parts that really reflect that. There are a lot of beamy looks and classic rock looks that are Parcan reminiscent. And then for the synth songs, there is more LED color and looks that feel more digital. The Parcan is sort of your very typical single light stage, your single source stage light that you would recognize like instantly on any tour going back for decades. One of the workhorses of the rig, says the designer, is the Artiste Rembrandt LED wash moving head. I love how much it's actually a real wash light. Many manufacturers have what they say is a wash light with a PC lens, but it's really just a spot with internal frost. They try to be the ultimate all-in-one tool, but the quality of the light still feels hard-edged. The Rembrandt, on the other hand, is a dedicated wash light where you get a good splashy feel and a really wonderful soft quality of light. It does really well and not in a way I see in other fixtures that are on the market at the moment. Then it gets to a few other details, but this is where you can kind of go check this out for yourself. The fixtures feature throughout the show with the look for one of the band's biggest hits, Personal Jesus, built around them. So if you want to know specifically what he's talking about with this wash light, go to YouTube and find a clip from the tour of Personal Jesus, and you can get an idea of that. Working from key light positions and providing a bit of effective light as well are the Artiste Monets. These are 45,000 lumen LED profile luminaries with a comprehensive FX package. The Monets are a classic staple for me, says Bayer. It's such a clean, repeatable, and reliable fixture that is just easily controllable. The ability to get them into those deeper, darker colors while still maintaining your output is a really big help. Rounding out the Artiste series used in Memento Mori, and the Memento Mori tour, are the 51,000 lumen Artiste Mondrian LED profile FX fixtures, which the designer uses as an upstage effect light. It's got a big fat lens on the front of it. It really holds its own presence. We only use 6 of them upstage, but they feel like the whole upstage wall of fixtures. They explode the band and complete the video wall. All 3 Artiste fixtures house Elation's proprietary 7-flag spectra color. This is a color mixing system, an ultimate indexing and continuous rotating framing, along with a host of texture, animation, and layering solutions. Seeking to emulate the frame around the video with lighting, Bayer says they sought a fixture to line the downstage edge and found what they were looking for in Elation's new Proteus razor blade. The razor blade is a nice take on the bar light that fits the role really well. It's a really high output fixture with clean color mixing and zoom that has a great range. They definitely help to ground the downstage edge of the picture. Let's see here. The strobe light is great, Bayer exclaims. It's like a big slap in the face. Even when there's a lot of brightness in the room, it cuts through really well. The designer incorporates a spark LED effect on a couple of songs. It helps diffuse the nature of the unit being such a technical object. It's a fun effect and even more useful for TV and camera work. Bayer shares that the original plan was for the razor blades to also line the runway, but that idea had to be scrapped due to the sight line issues. The Elation equipment for the Memento Mori tour is being supplied by 4Wall Worldwide, and it's a component of a more extensive lighting setup. When the band embarks on the European tour on May 16th, the rig will expand slightly for stadium shows. And so, getting away from the wonkiness and the details of the article, I thought that the backdrop of the M was most interesting. A lot of that I kind of had to Google to figure out exactly what it was that they were talking about. But I did find it interesting that they said during the shows starting in Europe, the stage will expand a bit. I don't think that the M wall behind them will get much bigger, but I do expect that the stage itself is going to widen out and probably give Dave even more room to roam during the show. The other aspect of it that I thought was really, really fascinating is the level of detail that goes into the tour itself. I think for perhaps a lot of people, it's kind of just a given. I know going back to, say, the 80s and 90s and what I was describing and what we witnessed in terms of the lighting production during the Music for the Masses tour, one would think that there wasn't a lot of thought going into the lighting beyond just making sure that the lights pulsed with the beat of the music. Obviously, that's changed throughout the years, and the various Depeche Mode shows moving on since then have all gotten more detailed and a lot more comprehensive in terms of the lighting. The article really goes to show how much thought is put into the entire show. And I hope that more people will. This is not to cast aspersion on anybody who's filming the shows when you go. But as Dave said in one of the famous clips that is now roaming around from one of the warm-up shows of, put your effing phone down and watch the show already, they clearly put a ton of effort into the live experience, not just from a musical standpoint and a performance standpoint, but in the lighting standpoint as well. They were very specific to craft the lighting around the direction of the particular songs. And that, to me, I just think elevates the experience and gets me even more excited for when I go and see the show in November in Denver, just knowing how much effort went into the entire package, including individuals who didn't have anything to do with the creation of the music, but their, job as professionals is to provide the best experience in terms of the lighting display for us fans going. And I think that is worth a mention and, honestly, a little bit of respect when you go to the show. Not to say you can't enjoy the lighting later, but it's there to experience in that arena live, not staring through a phone. Again, that's not to go and criticize anybody who goes and does that. That's just my personal opinion. All right, let us get into some listener feedback. A lot of you commented on the question that I had last week as to what to wear now when going to a modern-day Depeche Mode show, and a lot of you answered, so we'll get to some of that, plus other comments throughout the listener feedback. Before we get into it, does anybody know where Martin Gore is getting his pants? I know in the past a lot was made of the Mohawk cap that he wore on playing the Angel tour, correct? Yes. But I paid particular notice of Martin Gore during, and I believe it was the Berlin press conference, of some of the pants that he was wearing. And Martin Gore's always got just an amazing fashion sense. It's changed. It's not quite as kinky as it was back in the past. But I still love Martin's fashion sense, especially his ability to combine things that you wouldn't typically see work well together, like almost cable knit sweaters and pants with an abundance of zippers and buckles on them. But more specifically, there was a pair of pants that he was wearing, and they were black. They were black pants with these larger buckles on them, and I dug them. I think they're cool. So I was curious if anybody had any sort of idea of where Martin Gore typically goes and shops. They're probably more expensive than this lowly talk show host and podcaster can afford. But I actually was Googling, and it's funny, when you Google Martin Gore Depeche Mode pants, you actually do get some, on Google, you actually do get some ideas for shopping. But none of which seemed to land on specifically what I was looking for. So if you happen to have any insight, I'd like to know. Talkshownerd@gmail.com or leave a comment up on YouTube. All right. First, we go to Seattle and Natalie, who says, I'm loving your Depeche Mode podcast and enjoying the Memento Mori album immensely. Thank you for the kind words. Currently, before we drown my cosmos' mind, people are good, never let me go, and my favorite stranger are my faves. I'm responding to your question about what fans are wearing to the shows. I'm going to the Portland and Seattle shows in November. For the Portland show, I'm going full 80s Martin. I'm inspired by the days when Martin would wear a harness, black leather, and pearls. It will be all vegan leather for me. I have always loved Martin's fashion sense, and it was sad when people would tell him to tone it down. I really wonder how Martin's onstage outfits would have progressed if people would have just let him be. So, 80s Martin for Portland. For the Seattle show, I would love to come up with something that brings up the imagery of Sister of Night. Sister of Night is my favorite Depeche Mode song. That's awesome. And in that song, there is a mention of her saddest dress. So I'm thinking about what that would look like. Well, that was a long answer. In short, I'm going to dress up like 80s Martin, and I'm also going to try to find a way to bring Sister of Night to life in a costume. I'm sorry, my phone was ringing. Sister of Night to life in a costume. I hope they'll keep playing Sister of Night at the shows like they have been for the first leg of the tour. Keep up the good work on the podcast. I'm forever grateful to Depeche Mode for the best music ever played. They are my heartbeat. Warmly, Natalie. And I should ask, if you've got pictures, and I'm not meaning this in a creepy way, but if you have pictures of your outfits and of going to shows, I would love to see them. That would be awesome. I could probably figure out a way to share them, maybe on my @TheMyNerdWorld Twitter, or on the @TheMyNerdWorld on Instagram. Also, my Jon Justice one, @TheJonJustice, JON on Instagram as well. I'd love to see your outfits and the Depeche Mode shirt you're wearing. So. Let's see. Let's go here. Hi, John. Been listening to your podcast since the announcement of the new Memento Mori album. Love your dedication and the confirmation for all us fans. Thank you. I wanted to respond a bit about a listener comment recently that said that they thought Caroline's Monkey was the only song that wasn't as polished as the rest of the album. I've been intrigued by this track since I first listened to it because it has such a different vibe. I've been doing some poking around. By now, we all know this track was co-written by the Psychedelic Furs lead singer Richard Butler. What some of us from the various DM Facebooks have pieced together is that the song is a sequel to the Pretty in Pink track by the Psychedelic Furs from the film back in '86. It was written in the same third-person POV lyrical style. One nugget about the song, Caroline's Monkey, if you listen to the part of the lyrics at the end of the refrain, you'll hear Dave's voice sing the sometimes lyric in the exact note and tone as the end of the refrain from the Violator track Clean. Yep, I picked up on that early on, which was all about an addict's seeming recovery journey, where the sometimes part of the refrain led the listener to believe there was a glimmer of doubt in the recovering addict's narrative. As fans, we could really call this a trilogy if we wanted. Pretty in Pink, Clean, and Caroline's Monkey all telling the lifelong journey of a tortured soul. Just one of the many side references in DM's music that makes us longtime fans love it. Thanks, Sean Gomez. Yeah, I picked up on that and actually mentioned it early on when I was given a sample of Caroline's Monkey before it was released. That sometime was sang in exactly the same way it was from Clean. I'll have to go and listen to the title track by the Psych Furs, Pretty in Pink, and just to give it a listen based off of what you said. I find that really fascinating. I wonder if the band put that much thought into it. I believe I mentioned this before, and thank you, Sean, for the email. I would love to hear Richard Butler's demos, because I can hear Richard Butler's voice on Ghosts Again and on Caroline's Monkey. As a matter of fact, I couldn't help but wonder if early on, if Dave, because I'm assuming that it was Richard Butler's voice on the demo for Ghosts Again, and if Dave ended up singing the song perhaps in a slightly different way to match it, because Richard Butler's voice is very, very distinct. And he has a very interesting tone. And I think there are certain songs that just lend themselves to Richard Butler's voice. And Ghosts Again and Caroline's Monkey are two songs that I think would lend themselves very well to Richard Butler's voice. All right. Amy in Birmingham writes, hope you are well. As for concert attire, well, these days I go for comfort yet cute. I wear shoes that I can dance in, and if someone steps on my toes, they're somewhat protected, so no sandals. Now, a lot also depends on the venue and time of year. As I am 99% of the time freezing, I always go prepared with several layers that can be removed if necessary. As a product of the 90s, well, the 70s, but I went to a lot of shows in the 90s. I did too. I have been to many shows that were general admission and find it helpful to have some footwear protection and generally long pants just in case all hell breaks loose. To the San Antonio show, I did my part for the Black Swarm and dressed in black again. I know, as would be expected. I have worn band t-shirts of the band I was going to see or somewhat related to the band label mate, but that's generally for outside summer shows. When I see DM 2 times in the fall, I will be in black, no band shirt, but cute because I will be pretty close to the stage, and I'm hoping someone will notice my sweet moves and that I know every word to every song and ask me to be a roadie or something or a backup singer. I will be prepared for any eventuality. Seriously. Thanks again for the show and giving me an excuse for a silly email, Amy from Birmingham. Thank you, Amy. I think that's fantastic. All right. Jennifer Lefevre writes, I wore my black Songs of Faith and Devotion tee and jeans to the LA show. I saw a lot of other fans sporting their old Depeche Mode swag. It was pretty awesome. Wearing concert tees is my favorite to go, not only for nostalgia, but the conversations they can promote with other devotees. That is a great point. Thank you for that, Jennifer. All right. Stalin writes, I only recently found your podcast, your Ghosts Again episodes particularly. I became so connected to Ghosts Again. It immediately became my favorite Depeche Mode song. And yes, you can project loss, love, optimism to the song, which is at its core its pull and magic for me. But I want to share something about the physicality of the vocals. This is what I was talking about, by the way, too. When I tried to keep up with the lyrics, my chest and my mouth agonizes, and that further adds to the emotion the song conveys. The All My Flowers, a place to hide the tears you cried, etc. I love that it hurts a little to try singing along, and I love living in a world where this song exists. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and thank you, Stalin. There is no burn on that song for me whatsoever, and he's 100% correct. In terms of trying to sing it, it is a difficult song to sing. But again, that goes back to, I wonder if it was easier for Richard Butler to sing just because of his vocal stylings than it was perhaps for Dave Gahan or for us in the shower or in the car or elsewhere. Lorraine writes, I got to see Depeche Mode in New York City, April 14th, still recovering from that blissful night. Something about being in the band's actual presence triggers an elevated reaction. I loved them since age 10 in 87 and have renewed love with Memento Mori, as it's the best album since Playing the Angel in my opinion. Funny you ask about concert fashion, because I struggled with what to wear for that show. I don't love my old DM shirts, so when I went with basic black and white in a slightly dressed up way, it's funny how seeing the band is like seeing old friends I've known for almost 40 years. Seeing them play live again takes on a whole new significance, and I'm so grateful to have the chance to jump and cheer so many years into my fandom. Especially loved hearing Question of Lust non-acoustic. As always, I'm lore gore at heart. I'm a lore gore at heart, as my friends named me in the late 80s. Great to share in the DM Love Fest with others, Lorraine. Thank you, Lorraine. Violator90 says, I really appreciate other DM content. Thank you. I will be dressed in all black, of course. I've never worn a DM t-shirt at a DM concert. I don't really know why. Usually I dress up. It's nice to dress up sometimes. Tanya Ham writes, I was at the Vegas show, and there were tons of retro DM shirts. Almost everywhere had a shirt from one era or another. It was really cool to see. I saw 3 people dressed as a king with a cape and crown, and the usher in my section saw me taking pics of one across the floor and asked why they were dressed that way. LOL. We did see a guy in a Tool hoodie and later a girl in a Pussifier shirt, which thrilled my hubby to no end since he's a huge Maynard James Keenan fan. Otherwise, there were also people dressed for a night out, which, being in Vegas, I had figured as much. I had worn several different DM shirts during our trip, including earlier that day, and chose to dress up in a cute top, a schoolgirl skirt, and black knee-high high-platform boots. I figured half my sleeve of 8 DM tattoos was enough street cred for the night, I would say so. But not a single person all night noticed or said anything about my arm. I was actually a little disappointed, honestly. I see them again in Dallas on October 1st, so I'm not sure what to wear. Maybe one of the vintage Songs of Faith and Devotion or Violator tour shirts, or maybe I'll go in a cape and crown. Wow, Ham's an appropriate title for that. Get it? Sorry, I don't have a rim shot sound effect. Thank you. I guess it's Tanya. Thank you, Tanya, for that. That's awesome. All right. Wesley writes, recently I attended the Depeche Mode concert, and my wife wore a 90s style jeans with the Songs of Faith and Devotion t-shirt. I rocked black jeans with a Violator t-shirt, leather jacket, and black Ray-Ban Wayfarers. Nice. We are both in our mid-30s and became mega fans a few years ago. Unfortunately, we don't have the classic tour shirts yet. I have decided that I want a Depeche Mode tattoo. I'm getting the all-red Violator rose tattoo on the inside of my left forearm. Do you have a DM tattoo? I do not. If you were to get a DM tattoo, what would you get? I love the show and I never miss an episode. Thanks. I have thought about it for a long time. As you get older, it becomes increasingly less justifiable, I guess is the word. If I were going to, though, it would probably be the orange bong in the square logo from the Music for the Masses and Behind the Wheel promotion. That would probably be what I would get. The speaker with the lines in that orange color. I always loved that logo. Or maybe some of the symbols that were on the embossed version of the original release of Black Celebration. So that's probably what I would go with. I'm trying to think of anything after that I would do more recent, sort of going post Songs of Faith and Devotion or Ultra. No, that's probably what I would go with. Jen's Happy Place writes, I wore a plain black shirt and jeans to Chicago. My 24-year-old daughter, who became a fan on her own within the last few years and prodded our tickets to purchase, got dressed up in a fancy goth-style outfit complete with what she thought was a Martin-approved hat. A fellow DM fan gave her a safety pin for it at the Billy Goat Tavern before the show. She also bought a DM shirt there for $50, pure robbery. Thanks for the pod. Yeah, man, the price of the merchandise is expensive. I can't wait to get my hands on it, but the price of the merchandise is absolutely expensive. All right, Jeremy Casper writes, I will either be wearing my red Music for the Masses bong shirt or my gray Black Celebration Symbols t-shirt or my blue Construction Time Again Tower symbol t-shirt. In the past, I think I just wore a button-up shirt the last few tours, but yeah, I've usually worn black, I think. Thank you, Jeremy. Let's see. John, I just listened to your podcast, and I guess my DM... actually, this one's from last week. I had read that one already. And let's... do I have anything else for this week? No, I think I am going to stop here. My goal was to try to keep it at a half hour this week, and I believe I have succeeded. I do have more emails to get to, and a lot of these, again, I'm sort of saving for when there's little to almost no news to share. So I read every single one of your emails that come in, and the ones that I don't read on the air are ones that I'm typically holding on to for one reason or another. So that wraps up the episode again for this week. I want to invite you to join me, Rob Rome, and the Depeche Mode Global Fan Group on Saturday, noon Pacific Time, 3 o'clock Eastern, for a drink and chat. Details are in the details for the podcast this week. And as always, if you are a science fiction reader, I hope that you will treat yourself, a friend, or a family member with science fiction written by yours truly. Written for adults. Kids can read it at ages 11 plus, but I did write this series for adults. If you're a Star Wars fan, if you're a Depeche Mode fan, you will enjoy my series. That's what I am at heart. I'm a science fiction, Star Wars, Depeche Mode fan, and I try to include the elements of the things that I love into the story, especially Depeche Mode. A large part of the story plays on the underlying themes that Depeche Mode puts out in their music, along with the main character himself being a hopeless romantic and a massive Depeche Mode fan at a time in the future when the music of the 80s and 90s and 2000s is nostalgic and popular among the characters of the story. I did include references to Depeche Mode, both direct and indirect, while telling an exciting science fiction space opera saga that spans 7 books in ebook, audiobook, paperback, and hardcover. Amazon.com, search for Jon Justice, or you can go to my website, mynerdworld.net. The description for EMBARK Book 1, which is a fast-paced, action-packed science fiction adventure. Taft Guardia picked the right day to upgrade his ship when fellow pilot Keith Amaro arrived, needing his help investigating a cryptic message from her late aerospace engineer father. Unaware that an industrial accident has set off a catastrophic chain of events, they uncover a shocking secret. Amid the growing chaos, a tyrannical corporate madman with an armada threatens the thousands of starships heading for deep space. Taft quickly realizes what they found may be the only key to protecting Earth's evacuees, and so does the enemy. On the run across the galaxy, Taft is pushed to his limits, while Keitha must unravel the secret of what her father left behind if there is any hope for humanity's future among the stars. Again, if you like your science fiction, if you're a science fiction reader, if you like it epic, with some romance and action, EMBARK is perfect for you, and it's a way that you can support the My Nerd World podcast. You can also check out my weekly Star Wars podcast as well, where I talk about all things Star Wars. Thank you so much for, once again, checking out the show this week. I need to know where Martin Gore gets his pants, or where I can get some like them. shownerd@gmail.com, or leave a comment up on YouTube. I hope wherever you are happy, you are healthy, and you are safe. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.